folks, the talk about Norris joining Red Bull, it won't go away. Why is that? So you know the whole thing about Sergio Perez not really knowing where he is at Red Bull? How Helmut Marko and Christian Horner keep changing their minds about what they think of him? Well, Helmut Marko's back at it again! He's now talking about Sergio Perez's lack of consistency being a cause for concern about whether or not he's fit to be part of the Red Bull team, even though he is contracted until 2024. And now Sergio Perez has basically given up on extending that contract and is looking for alternatives elsewhere. I talk about that in my video from yesterday. You can look at that up top for the more detailed skivvy. But the main point of this video is that why is the talk about Lando Norris not going away? Because as part of that statement, Helmut Marko also said that Lando Norris is very much on their radar for 2025. Constantly, Lando Norris is being talked to going to Red Bull. Could he be the person to break the Red Bull second seat curse or something? Possibly. But it all comes back to Sergio Perez. I mean, Red Bull just constantly bag on him, even though in 2021 he did arguably do a lot to help Max Verstappen get his first world title. I don't want to go into the details about Abu Dhabi, that's besides the point. But he did do his job and everything was going really well. Finally, Checo broke the Red Bull curse. Not so. The curse is still there, it's just been delayed a little bit. And that nobody can seemingly actually sway that type of thing, that Max Verstappen is simply too good, and also that team is geared towards him to keep him there because he is guaranteed to bring titles and glory after many years in Mercedes' shadow. But I think the main reason why Lando Norris is actually a good candidate for Red Bull now is because what's going on at McLaren. And I hate to say it, but I kind of want him to go. His attitude is not great, and I'm starting to actually see it more and more because of Oscar Piastri. And I know a lot of people are going to be saying that, oh, you really like Oscar too much. Oh, you're just being biased because you like him. Yeah, I do like Oscar Piastri. But the main point of it is, and you can probably see it in all the radio responses and all of the chatter and how Oscar has conducted himself, not just in Formula 1, but in Formula 2, Formula 3 and what have you, is that he's very calm. Even though he got hit by Lewis Hamilton, he still just was like, ugh, right, yeah. And that relative calm attitude has really brought Lando Norris's shouty, angry, and sometimes rude exchanges on the radio into sharp relief. We've sort of known that this is kind of Lando's attitude on the radio for the longest time, ever since he joined F1. He was always loud and passionate on the radio. Some of his radio exchanges actually became memes for the longest time, you know, up and down, side to side, roller coaster, and it's Friday then. Everyone thought, oh, he's just a lad, he's fun, he's engaging, he's bringing the youth into Formula 1 at a time when Drive to Survive was really picking up steam. So the young'uns found a person to relate to. But I'm now starting to see more and more, because of Oscar's calmness, that Lando's attitude is not great, and that it's really starting to wear thin. And he's now really starting to see a lot of pressure coming from the likes of the other side of the McLaren garage, and Andrea Stella is starting to see it too, and is deciding to nip it in the bud right here, right now. McLaren has seen plenty of inter-team rivalry with the likes of Senna and Prost. We've seen it with Hamilton and Alonso. Because of that bickering, Kimi Raikkonen went to the 2007 world title when nobody thought he would actually get it. Ferrari came in unawares and swooped into the title by 1 point. Because they were bickering. I don't think McLaren want to have that experience again. During the wilderness years of McLaren with Alonso and Button, I mean, Button gets on with everyone, so that wasn't going to be a problem. They were just trying to stay afloat and survive. And then you had Alonso with the likes of Van Dorn. I mean, that wasn't really going to be a problem because Alonso does tend to eliminate his teammates, sometimes without even trying, like he is with Lance. I just feel like now, Lando's got a teammate that is giving him a lot of pressure. He didn't really have that with Carlos because he was a rookie, and no one really expected much of him. Ricciardo came in, everyone thought that, oh, well, Lando's going to have a challenge here. Well, nope, he did not have a challenge at all. It was a cakewalk. And now 8-time winning driver was nothing compared to him. He just got puffed up in his smoke box, in my opinion, and he felt invincible, that he could now be the proper team leader of McLaren, and that could now be taken away from him. He is feeling threatened, in my opinion. So there are moments when Oscar Piastri has a masterclass, especially at really fast tracks. Monza, he outqualified Norris. At Jeddah, he outqualified Norris. It is starting to come Oscar's way once he's starting to find his feet. And of course, I know a lot of you are going to be saying, well, Oscar doesn't really have good tire management skills. Well, yeah, of course he doesn't. He will learn that and he will improve. He is getting there. Logan Sargent at Williams had that same problem, but they were teaching him and educating him about the importance of tire management. That stunt at Monaco was absolutely brilliant from James Vowles and really, really helpful. And he's now got a good handle on it. He doesn't really complain about tire management all that much. He's now mainly complaining about the fact he doesn't get good enough parts, but you know, that's a limited budget, limited resources, and Alex Albon for you. And that scuffle that they had at Monza coming out of the pits, that was a bit of a flashpoint that McLaren were very keen to stamp out immediately. They do want their drivers to race against each other, but not like that. The whole thing came about mainly because Oscar Piastri was kind of getting a little frustrated behind Lando Norris and then vice versa when things got switched around. And then when they went into the pits, Oscar was faster on his in-lap than they expected, and then he was a little slower in the pits. Oscar had cold tires, he really kind of mussed things up, but then Lando didn't really kind of try and abort the corner, and then he would have had that anyway, but he still went into it. So they were both at fault to some degree. So I will say that Piastri wasn't completely innocent, but the fact is though, they did touch, but it was very lucky that they actually didn't make contact. But this is the first flashpoint and a major sign that Oscar Piastri's place is more than just him being a very good young talent with potential for the future. He is McLaren's insurance policy in case Lando decides to leave. Most people thought that if Lando Norris left McLaren, it would mainly be down to the fact that the car's not good enough. But we're now starting to see that McLaren car is improving. They are slowly getting their act together. They now have their wind tunnel where they can actually improve their components more efficiently, not having to go to Cologne at the Toyota wind tunnel to do it. There's a lot of time saved and a lot of toing and froing and resources, so that saves on budgets, so that means that can be put into parts. It's a really good, helpful cycle of improvement. But now we're starting to see Lando's attitude not really cutting it to being a good team leader. I want things my way, and you better do things my way and make sure that things go the way I like it. So they're making really weird calls with undercuts and just pitting Piastri so they don't do a driver swap. It was just weird. McLaren's not sure how to handle it, but then they also do know how to handle it, but using words instead of actions. But now we're actually starting to see the main reason why Lando Norris is becoming more and more viable in being Max Verstappen's teammate. It's because he will not want to be pressured by the likes of Oscar Piastri, someone younger than him, and could viably actually get a win before Lando. Oscar's more optimistic, and that's the kind of driver you need at McLaren. You need a driver who is just more composed, collected, calm, just mature. And Lando isn't mature, even though he's older. And for the longest time, people didn't really care because Lando was fun, he was playful, he was the youngest driver by miles, but he's not the youngest driver anymore. Yuki's younger than him, Lawson's younger than him, Piastri's younger than him. And we're now starting to see Liam Lawson. I mean, that's going to be another thing as well, because everyone was thinking that, oh, Oscar Piastri might go to Red Bull. But I don't think so, because Mark Webber saw all of the politics with faster teammates, team orders. Why would he put his young boy in there? And now Liam's made it very clear that I'm just like Oscar. I'm an old head on young shoulders. I can be just as good and composed, if not better, than Oscar Piastri, and I'm already in your wheelhouse, so give me a chance. They don't need to worry about another Oscar, but if they wanted to have a top-tier driver alongside Max Verstappen, after Checo decides to move on to pastures new, be it at another team, or in a completely different category, or actually going back and spending time with his family and whatnot, then that could be a decent solution for Lando Norris, because, you know, he's young, he's feisty, it's the kind of driver that Red Bull wants, and I thought it would never happen. I thought that Lando Norris would stay at McLaren for, well, forever, actually. If he does move, it's going to cause the biggest ripple in the entire driver market. Then he'd be going to a place where, I like this guy, I like Max, it's going to be fun. They'll actually embrace my really feisty attitude over the radio, and they won't get really moody about it. They'll like a fact I give a go. They're not going to stamp me down at the moment of any kind of insurrection, which is Andrea Stella's mode of doing it, which is very mature and very good, so they don't let it get out of hand. But I don't think Lando would respond well to it. He does feel very threatened. The main feeling I'm getting out of all of this is that, sure, if Lando Norris does go to Red Bull and alleviates his worries about McLaren and gets away from Oscar Piastri, he's just going to be going into an even bigger pit. Max Verstappen is, well, he is the best. He is absolutely the best at the moment. And Lando Norris is certainly very good. But is he at the level of Max Verstappen? We don't fully know, because we've not seen him in equal or relatively close machinery. Except maybe Silverstone of this year, where he did have a lot of fun. They did have a lot of fun as well. But Max Verstappen, would he really want Lando there? Maybe not, because as I said many times, he does want to see Lando excel in another team. Where there are no team orders at play, they can go all out, no holds barred. They can really have a ding-dong battle, like they did for 4 laps before Max decided to go, you know, I'm just going to try now. Or it could be very tragic. And the death of a very strong relationship and friendship, and the likes of what Rosberg and Hamilton had. You know, this would just go down south very quickly, unless Max Verstappen is aware of this and decides to not let the personal side get in the way of the racing. And I would like to think that maybe Lando has the measure of Max Verstappen and realizes what kind of person he is, and they decide to go beyond that, they look past it, and there he can show his application and maturity in a much more useful way, where they don't collide with each other. And maybe McLaren just might want to get rid of Norris in that sense, because if he's going to be the one causing all of the drama and rift and tension at that team, maybe it might be best to just get rid of him, because he's just causing trouble. And that's the last thing that McLaren wants at the moment. They're restructuring. They're trying to reinvent themselves, trying to get back to their victorious days. I mean, even the likes of 2011 or 2010 would do, where they were championship contenders, but they weren't right at the top. But they were certainly close. Having Lando there might not be conducive for them anymore. Maybe it might be best just to let him go and let him do what he wants. Because Zach Brown really likes Lando, but whether or not he might like him in a couple of years' time if they keep actually colliding with each other or getting into frustrating battles, or Lando gets frustrated over the radio, because I actually caught up with that Zandvoort exchange he had with his engineer. That wasn't cool. You don't air your frustrations. It felt like he just left his radio on, and then you had all of that. It's just like, oh man, that's just not good. You're supposed to be the team leader. You know what? Fine. Let him go to Red Bull. Let him actually replace Checo. Let him be the one instead of Daniel Ricciardo to partner Max Verstappen. Even though, realistically, it'd probably be the most stable lineup, Ricciardo and Verstappen, because they like each other and Ricciardo would know his place. He'd just be grateful to be back there. Whereas Norris, yeah, he'd be riding high. And since Mercedes aren't really anywhere at the moment, I mean, that could easily change. And if Mercedes do get back up to the top before the new rules and regulations, that might be a different story. He might go to Mercedes instead. But for the moment, Helmut Marko wants him. And I'm pretty sure he'll find the means and ways to try and get him, and convince him to partner up with Max Verstappen. It might be a really good dream team lineup, but would it actually be healthy? No. But what I'm starting to see more and more of is that, you know what? It does seem more likely. And in fact, I think it might be what Formula One as a company wants. And if you want to see what I think about their own opinions, you can check out this video next and why I think it's still a little bit, you know, dodgy.